A pervasive identity I feel that I've grown up with and has been a big part of my life is I'm a first-generation Indian who was born and raised in America. My parents are from India, and they grew up in India, and obviously the cultural norms there are a little bit different from here. So like a lot of children or like a lot of people struggling with that divide between like the way their parents were grown and the way we've grown up. Like obviously there's been generational divides, but I feel like I've also had to deal with a little bit of cultural differences as well growing up. So like people automatically assume that when you're Indian you're going to be pre-med, and you're not pre-med because you want to be pre-med, but because like your parents expect you to be pre-med. They don't think that it's something you're really passionate about. And it's hard to overcome that stereotype and prove that it's something you love and something you want to work hard for. Okay, so a group on campus that I joined because I wanted to meet people similar to me and similar to the way I've grown up, with like the way, you know, my parents were born and raised in India and they moved here. And so I came to SLU and I met a lot of people who were Indian, and there was this big group on campus called the Indian Student Association, ISA. And I got to meet a lot of people who were similar to me. Like, you know, they also had a little bit of a divide with the way their parents had grown and they've grown up here. For example, like a lot of the Indian, like I grew up watching a lot of Indian movies and Bollywood movies and dancing to a lot of Bollywood songs, learning classical dance. And that's not something I could really relate to with a lot of other Americans here growing up. But coming to SLU and finding ISA was a good way for me to meet other people who had similar interests, who I could relate to in terms of the way that they've been raised and like the movies they've watched, the experiences they've had. So coming here and coming to college, I think is a little bit, it's kind of a culture shock and a religious shock, because college is more like, there's a lot more liberal viewpoints and a lot more things to explore and see, and like you kind of, it's very easy to either lose your roots and your faith, or grow stronger to it. I think those are two extremes that I've noticed in people. They either completely lose it or they get more attached to it. So I felt like in the beginning of my college experience, freshman and sophomore year, I really like, I didn't really think about like my Hinduism as I've grown up with it. And so junior and senior year, I grew more attached to my faith that we have here at SLU. And it really helped me just like realize that it was okay to be like very religious and very in touch with our faith and talk about religion, which I think a lot of people have trouble talking about in general. So it was nice to be able to find that group to talk to, and like it opened myself up to talking about my religion with other people's religions and just having a discussion and understanding that, which I think a lot of people have trouble with doing on a daily basis, because it's not like the first thing that somebody notices or would like to talk about, just because it's a sensitive issue. So a lot of Hindu traditional religious holidays are more commercialized, I think, because of the way that media portrays them, or the way that like even we, I guess, throw the events. One particular event that I helped organize was Holi, and I remember that last year somebody was walking past us and being like, oh, let's participate in the color run without running. And there's a lot more to Holi that I guess a lot of people don't understand, or like a lot of Hindu holidays that just like they see the surface level of it and think, oh, this is really cool, but there's actually like way more to it. Like Holi was supposed to be, there's a story behind it that I don't really want to get into, but I think like it's important to understand where different holidays are coming from, which I think media doesn't do a good job portraying. So I do think that when people go to India, they feel, especially from here, they probably feel like they need to fix it. They need to make it better. They need to make it more modern and commercialized. And like, there are aspects of India where like, okay, it needs to be, cleaned up a little bit. Maybe add some better roads, transportation systems, a plumbing system. But something I've noticed going to India and like living there with my family and my cousins is the tie that they have with their family, the tie that they have with their neighbors, is non-existent here, from what I've seen. So like, you can go next door and just have a friendly conversation and a cup of tea with your neighbors because you've grown up with them. Like, when visitors come to your neighbor's house, they come to your house too. It's like, you treat everyone like family. And that's a very like raw, I think it's a very raw, beautiful thing that I haven't seen here. And I think it comes with part of the whole, like the way India is structured, like the houses being so close to each other. The fact that it is less modern allows for more like downtime and more time to just relax with family and appreciate those moments and like play cricket on the streets with your neighbors. That's something that like my little cousin does. He just goes out with people his own age in the neighborhood and they have cricket every day. And I don't know, it's just it's a more comforting environment. Like, my grandma, she came here to visit, and she wanted to go right back because she didn't like how the houses were so individualized and everybody was so like in their own bubble, versus having that community atmosphere in India and like being able to just walk on the street and talk to your neighbor next door. So I know like a lot of people feel like India or certain parts of India need to be modernized and helped. But there's like a raw beauty in a lot of places in India that like you won't find here. So the unity aspect of India, that has to do with the way people communicate with each other. There's no like false sense of politeness. It's more of like what's real is real. Like, everyone is I feel like way more like realistic, not in your face, but like they say it how they see it. And I guess that was a bit of a culture shock because a lot of times here we're like very conserved. We like try to make sure that everyone is like we don't want to offend people. Like, we have to be like appropriate. And I think in India there's a lot of times where that's not the case, and so that was a bit of a culture shock going there. A lot of other Americans here, like I couldn't, like growing up, I couldn't really relate to like the movies people talked about or like just everything that they knew about the cultural norms. But also going back to India and being like more Indian here, I was way less Indian in India. Like, I know Gujarati, which is the language that I speak and my family speaks, but there's also that like I mess up here and there. My Indian accent isn't perfect, so like a lot of times I get made fun of by my cousins. Most of the time I get made fun of by my cousins and they laugh at me. Or like when I go to India, I wear different types of clothing, or like I straighten my hair, or like, different things like that. And my cousins will just, like they'll notice, or like a lot of people in India will notice, or they'll turn their face when they see you, because it's not like I'm completely Indian when I go there too. So there's this middle divide between being stuck being like not completely American, not being completely Indian, which is it's not something that I notice today on a day-to-day basis as much, because I think in college especially there's a lot of different diverse types of people, so I think everyone has their little thing. So being part of ISA is great and I love it, but obviously it's like when you meet people that are very similar to you, you grow very like fond of them, and I feel like I used to like restrict myself to only that one group of people, and like I was talking about, in college there are so many different types of people and so many like I think that's one of the beautiful things about college, is you realize how many different types of people there are, and like literally each person has their own story. So I think being part of the ISA was great. I came into SLU, it was something I was used to, you know, like a lot of Indian people, a lot of Indian festivals, like that's what I grew up with. But I think like freshman and sophomore year, I was more like only ISA, but I always wanted that like expansion. Like I wanted to get to know people who weren't like me, because when you see different viewpoints, I think you grow as a person. When you're uncomfortable, you grow as a person. And so like I think I really had to push my limits and try to like challenge myself and find different avenues of like here. I think it's important like coming in to find your social group and like where you fit in college, and I think like everyone finds a group eventually. Is like coming in, I like went straight towards ISA. I went straight towards like my Indian religious, like Hindu like group, all of that, and that was great. And it was great for me to be able to explore that aspect of my identity and my heritage, because I was able to relate to a lot of people, and it like made me confirm that like a lot of things that I knew, that I believed in, were not shameful. But like I think that's not enough. I think there's way more out there at SLU. I think there's way more out there in the world to just limit yourself to that one group of like, these are the people I want to talk to, these are the people I want to get to know, this is the heritage that I want to understand. There's way more to different identities, so I think it's important to, if you find an interest in something, like even if it's not something you're used to knowing, like explore that, and, like try to find out more about that. If there's something you don't understand, like I personally have like had to, if I had a judgment about something, I've had to like alter that judgment and be like, okay, so why do I think this way? Maybe I should find out more about this person or this religion. So that's been great about SLU and about college. So I suggest like doing that through college and finding different circles and finding different types of people, and you know, just learning more and like expanding your viewpoint, my viewpoint, about people here. So yeah.